Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the 37th Annual Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, here presented by Visual Communications. We are presenting our C3 Conference for Creative Content, and we have the cast and crew of Doogie Kamealoha, MD, with us today. My name is Shanon Serikaku, and I'm joining today in our VC office here. I have a white background with our Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival logo in teal, and our Visual Communications logo in black. I have long, wavy, dark brown hair, and I'm wearing a maroon, blue, and gray feather pattern shirt. And I would like to invite Kourtney, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yes. Hi, my name is Kourtney Kang. I'm a creator and executive producer of Doogie Kamealoha, MD. I am sitting in my office in Los Angeles in front of a bright pink couch and a white shirt I just bought yesterday for this occasion, and I'm very happy to be here.
I'm Melvin Mar. I'm executive producer of Doogie Kamealoha. I am in my office in Los Angeles. I'm wearing a black polo shirt like I always do. It's super old, but really excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, Peyton.
Hi, I'm Peyton Elizabeth Lee, and I play Lahela on Doogie Kamealoha, MD. I am actually in my mom's office, sitting in a teal leather chair. There's a couple paintings behind me. I'm wearing this black and white houndstooth, I believe, sweater vest and a white button-up shirt under it.
Hi, I'm Jason Scott Lee. I play Benny Kamealoha, Doogie Kamealoha's father in the show. I am in my office in Hawaii on the Big Island. I am wearing a red shirt, and there's a brown bookcase behind me.
Great, thank you so much. So to start out with, Kourtney, I really want to know, this might be kind of a chicken or the egg type of question, but was the initial idea to develop a show centered around a lead character in Hawaii and their experiences there, or did the idea of telling this, Doogie Howser child prodigy story come first?
Yes, well, it's sort of as all things that I end up getting roped into. It all starts with Melvin. And so Melvin called me up because they were looking to do a reboot of Doogie Howser. And it was Melvin's idea to take that show and put an Asian girl at the center of it. And so he called me up and he was like, what do you think? And I thought it was a brilliant idea. I grew up watching the show, but I was like, but how are you doing it? Like, why is she called Doogie? Like, how does this work? And in Melvin's classic way, he's like, hey, you figure it out. You figure it out. And so I was like, I don't know. And I started thinking about it and I was like, wow, what could that be? And then I had the idea, what if you did a reboot that was set in our world, that her nickname is Doogie? They call her that because she's this young doctor, but she's like, that happened before I was even born, like some show from the 90s that has nothing to do with me. And so that got me really excited about approaching this reboot that way. And then I also had the thought that what if I made her family like my family? The family in the show is very much inspired from my real life family. My dad, I was born in Hawaii. My dad is Korean. He's a local boy. He went to St. Louis High School. All my aunties and uncles and grandmas over there. And my mom is an Irish Catholic lady from Pennsylvania. And I have two brothers and I'm a middle child. And so I started to infuse the concept of Doogie with my own family. And so as we were making the show, it started from this one place of here's this high concept idea of a 16-year-old doctor, but then we infused it with a lot of, my own experiences, the writer's experiences, and then this cast brought so much to it. And so with each of us putting our own touches into it, it became something very personal to all of us.
Absolutely, fantastic, yeah. So Melvin, then, I guess, how did this all come about with you joining the project and putting it all together?
Kourtney and I worked on Fresh Off the Boat together for many years, and towards the end of the run of Fresh, I remember talking to the studio about what else we can do to sort of, build off of, the joy of having an Asian American family on TV. And I said to the studio at the time, I was always interested in the Doogie piece of IP. We were, right around that time, like Fox and Disney were merging. We were looking at libraries and stuff. And I was always interested in it. And then I, naturally thought, well, what if it's a girl? And just being a father of an 8-year-old, I had a very Chinese moment of just thinking, like, what if my daughter's a genius? Which she clearly is not, but she's lovely. And then I called the next person I know that I equate to a 16-year-old genius, Kourtney Kang, and she figured everything out, even though she spent most of it telling me she wasn't going to do it, and kept trying not to do it. And in typical form, if you've known Kourtney long enough, she doesn't shut up. So like if she's quiet after you pitch her something, then you've got her. And the rest does itself after a while, because her big brain just keeps going, and she'll figure it out.
Awesome. And so, Peyton, how did you I guess kind of get into this world of Doogie and prepare for this real powerhouse role really that you're carrying here?
Yeah, well, I think, there are a couple parts to the answer to that. I mean, I think Lahella's character is, based on a couple different things. A lot of it is my personal experience. I'm obviously not a teenage doctor, but I am a teenage actor. And so I do have, I think, a pretty unique insight into the idea of being caught between two worlds. And on one hand, both Lahella and I are teenage girls, and that comes with crushes and best friends and relationships and family dynamics. And then on the other hand, the less conventional side of things, we both exist in a professional environment. And, she goes to work at a hospital, I go to work on a set, and both environments come with these very adult pressures and expectations and responsibilities, and sort of being able to rise to meet those, expectations, and also carving out space to be a kid and to grow up in as normal a way as you can. And so I've definitely in my life dealt with sort of balancing those two things and navigating those two worlds and sort of trying to find yourself somewhere in the middle. So a lot of Lahella's character, I think, is based off of my personal experience. Working with Kourtney, obviously a huge part of Lahella is her life, and getting to know her story, I think, influenced me a lot. In addition, just being in Hawaii and experiencing the land and the culture and the people and learning from the local cast and crew there. And then on top of all of that, the medical side of things, doing everything possible to make sure audiences really buy into this idea of a teenage doctor. And so that meant researching and Googling and YouTubing and talking to the doctor consultant we had on set and running lines with him and going through the procedures with him. So there really were a lot of factors that came together because Lahella is such a dynamic, complex character. And so there were a lot of influences involved in building out her story.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you do balance it so well of really this teenager going through the awkward moments and navigating that, but being so solid in her professional and her career side of things. So I was curious though, like you kind of mentioned about touching upon the local culture and embodying that, because it's such a big part throughout the show too, which I really. It was so nice for me to see and experience that as well. And there's so many moments where it's just nice to kind of laugh about something familiar, because I'm born and raised in Hawaii as well. So speaking of the local touch, Jason, how did you approach the role of Benny?
Well, I think a lot of it was on paper when I was brought on, and it's just finding the nuances that were kind of in between the lines. That I thought that being from the islands, growing up in the islands, that I had kind of a Cliff Notes perspective on it. I could, you know, I could really see things in between it that I could add and infuse, and there's a certain, you know, there's a certain style in the islands that you have that you know, being from, you can't imitate. You have to have, it has to be a feeling, and I think that is kind of part of why, you know, I was thought of for this, and why I was brought on, and I think it adds that sincerity and that warmth and that authenticity of, you know, a lot of stuff, you know, that's local doesn't get by me. So if it doesn't feel authentic, I won't play it. But I think because of that, there's so many things, you know, there's the pidgin language that can be turned up or turned down. There's the addressing the children, of the disciplining factor and how that's done. You know, a lot of upbringing in the Hawaiian Islands is with a heavy hand, but, you know, we kind of like, you know, find a nice balance in between. And so, you know, there's so much that I found in discovery through the episodes that, you know, I could play with. And I think Kourtney and Melvin gave me the carte blanche to kind of like do that and open the gates to being the goofy. You know, I don't usually play these kind of things. I've been mostly dramatic acting, but it's fun. You know, it's been a hoot. It's been kind of refreshing.
One of the coolest moments initially, because this all happened on Zoom, like meeting everybody for this, and Kourtney, jump in anytime. I just remember Jason just showing up for the first time and then like working out how like the levels of pidgin. It was so cool just to watch you just like go super deep on it, and then he was like, well, maybe I scale it back a little. it was just really
It's true. It's very nuanced. It's like, when are we going to need subtitles, or when are we?
Yeah. No, it was really awesome to watch sort of Jason just bring Benny to life.
Yes,
absolutely.
It was, you know, Jason brought so much to it, and it was really great. Like early on, we had so many great conversations in crafting who Benny is and what kind of guy he was. And I remember one of the guiding principles of Benny came to us through Jason as he was talking about the character. And he was like, you know, Clara and Lahela are doctors and they take care of everybody else, but Benny takes care of them. And he, you know, he wants to make sure they're okay. And he's like the coach. And so we really use that as a North Star for Benny's character, that he is like a coach to everyone he meets. He wants everyone to be their best. And it's such a great, I think, character who is looking out for everyone else, you know, and he wants, you know, he gave up his, you know, we'll see more of Benny's backstory as the series goes on, and we'll see, you know, what led him to working in the shave ice truck and how he's there to support his family the best way he can. And Jason just brought so much to it, you know, as we were sort of creating this and meeting Peyton and working with Jason, and as we crafted this show, because it's sort of a freight train, you know, I wrote the pilot, we were casting these guys and also writing the series, so that by the time we shot the first one, like the first 5 episodes were written. And so we had the chance to infuse them into it and cater these roles to them. And then as we were watching them perform them, we understood more who these characters were. So it was all of us really working together in a great way.
Yeah. And I mean, that's no small feat in itself. Not to mention, you know, in this time of being in a COVID world and navigating that. So how did that impact the way that you were creating and performing, and how, I mean, it's in a world where we're pretty much just seeing people exist, but I just want to know kind of on the back end how that impacted all of the things that you folks are doing.
For me, you know, I think filming a show is already such an intense bonding experience. And then when on top of that, you're putting people on an island together. And then on top of putting people on an island together, you're putting people on an island together in the middle of a global pandemic. There really is no more intense an experience than that. And I think in a lot of ways, we all got very close because we had to rely on each other and take care of one another and be there for one another because we didn't really have anybody else. And so that sort of chemistry and camaraderie, I think, added so much to the experience on set. And then in creating such a fun work environment, it was very conducive to creating a show that had that same sort of effortless chemistry and fun. And I think it all really translates well on screen.
Piggybacking on what Peyton was saying, you know, the casting process of this all happened like this in a Zoom, you know, us, you know, sort of working together in this way. And one of my favorite moments from the whole experience was there was a day before we started shooting that we all met at the house. The Kamealoha family met at the Kamealoha house. And it was the first time we got to see each other in person. And it was so delightful to be together. And we just sort of talked about the family and who they were. And, you know, it was just very casual and it was really special. And I remember from that moment, it was just, and I think it was the first time I was like with more than, like, it was the first time I was with people that I wasn't related to because we had all been in the pandemic in our own houses. And so it was very special.
Being in Hawaii really helped too. And I think at the time, you know, cases were relatively low there. It seemed like, you know, being an island, it was already kind of a bubble and like, it just added to it. And I think, the people, the just environment, the culture, like just added to the overall thing creatively as well as helped production wise as well. I think, you know, it's already challenging making these things all the time, but you add in, you know, being tested every day, protocols with masks and face shields and blah, blah, blah. Like it just, if it didn't have all the things that, you know, Peyton and Kourtney mentioned, like, you know, I don't know. We got very fortunate on many levels, and the first one being we were able to go to Hawaii to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think knowing the producing and creative team that was behind it, and that, you know, the platform that it was being projected to go to, I think, you know, what the projection of having a premium quality show and shooting it in Hawaii, you know, it's like Hawaii has a special lighting, you know, and it's just very technicolor, and you can't duplicate that, you know. And I heard rumors that they were going to shoot in Chatsworth, and I was like, what? How can there's something like that? But I was just like, huh? And then, you know, when it was kind of confirmed, it's like, wow, you know, this could be pretty awesome. It would be fun. I work in my backyard, and, you know, especially during that time in pandemic, I was like, I don't want to fly anywhere far. It's just like, I want to just be here, be, you know, be close to the family and kind of thing.
We like reminding people during the rainy season, like it could be worse. We could be in Chatsworth. Hawaii in the rain is really great compared to Chatsworth.
That's true. It's just, it has a whole magic on its own. Rain in Hawaii. Yeah. And the other thing I want to mention, which I've seen throughout the show, maybe that's just me because food is my love language, but that's another point that I think is so identifying about, like seeing Benny, you know, bring the taco out of the ocean for dinner and getting Spam as a gift, and, you know, just these little moments, the shave ice truck obviously throughout. And I want to know, since you did get to go film in Hawaii, what is a favorite food that is a must-have that you miss now that you're away, or like your go-to?
Peyton will take this one.
I hate to say it.
This one.
I hate to say it because the moral of the story is that Melvin was right, and that's a horrible moral. But Spam musubi was all Melvin would talk about at the very beginning, and I was like, okay, whatever. But it ended up being something I had at least once a day, and now I very much miss it. Emma and I drove like an hour trying to find them in LA. But yes, I would say that's definitely something that I miss.
Yes. For
I was right.
Yes, you were totally right.
On one occasion.
My family, I grew up as a total Zippy's family. Like when we were in Hawaii and we go out to dinner, like we would go to Zippy's. So Zippy's is like a total favorite for me. Like Zippy's chili is I'm obsessed. And so for me, I miss cruising through a drive-through Zippies on the way home with a little thing of chili and some rice. That's the thing I miss.
How about you, Jason? Is there anything when you're away from home that you?
Why? I live on the Big Island here, so I have all access to all those things. But I mean, I think what was kind of what I remember about being in the show is like, wow, it's like in one of the episodes I was making bulgogi, and I was like, I can't remember bulgogi being in any show. I mean, it's like it was such a thing. It was kind of an epiphany for me. It was like, I'm making bulgogi on a TV show. And it's like, this is cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was really exciting for me. And I remember when we were going through the props and the meetings, like my dad doesn't use bowls. He like saves like sherbet containers and Cool Whip containers. And I remember I was like, Benny needs to make bulgogi in like an old sherbet container that's like stained from like tomato sauce, like it's had it forever. I was like, that's how the people I know make their bulgogi, so it was very exciting to me to see Jason, with his big sherbet container, doing marinating the meat. It was great.
I was like, a Western audience gonna get what this is? And I guess it's popular now with all the food shows. So I was like, oh, I guess they'll get it. It's like,
yeah. We want them to Google it. Yeah.
But and I think it's important to share those moments, and it is nice to be able to see those things on screen. Like you said, like I don't recall seeing that ever, and to have those little details of the Cool Whip container, the sherbet container, it's like, yes, that's like, growing up, that for a lot of people, it's a nice thing to be able to kind of see reflected. So
100%. That was
appreciate it.
When we were doing the pilot, there's the spam musubi comes up. Walter brings spam to Benny, and there was a conversation like, are people going to know what like spam musubi is? Like what, and there was sort of this conversation, like you want everyone to be able to enjoy the show. And I think one of the things that we try to do is be as specific as possible. And as audiences across the globe are watching, not everybody's going to know what spam musubi is, but there is going to be a very small but enthusiastic part of the audience that's going to see somebody say spam musubi on Disney Plus, and they're going to be like, oh my God, look what they just said on Disney Plus. And to me, it's like, that's exciting. Like, that's what, as I was a kid growing up, I would have loved to see something like that. And so this show gives us the opportunity to do that. And anytime we had that chance, we took it.
Same here. I agree. And for those who don't know, it's an introduction and you get to learn a little something new and experience the culture. So, hey, all for it. How about you, Mel? Any foods that you're missing right now?
When we started being able to go to restaurants again when we were in Hawaii, I made the rounds. I love me some Ono seafood. That sort of taco tuna pokebo is just amazing. Like I love Ono seafood, and I miss Izakaya Naru, which is an Okinawan izakaya there on King Street. I think about it often. Yeah. So I'm going back at some point.
Yeah. Season two.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then just kind of like, if you have any, like my friends and I like to do kind of like, what was the rose and the thorn? If you have any like fun stories you want to share, like what was like a just nice little favorite highlight for you throughout filming in Hawaii, or what was something that unexpected maybe happened that you weren't really anticipating that you could have done without maybe, but it's all part of the experience.
There was a couple of times in the second episode there was a monsoon warning a couple times or like a flash flood warning.
And it was so funny because we were like freaking out about it, and everyone that lives there was like, "Oh no, those don't happen."
Those don't happen. But the funniest part is Kourtney comes up to me and goes, "What do you do if there's a monsoon?" I'm like, "Go to higher ground." And she's like what? Like climb a tree? I'm like, "Don't climb a tree."
Oh wait, tsunami?
Go to a mountain. or
tsunami
sorry.
warning? Okay,
Tsunami,
yeah. I was like,
it was a tsunami warning.
Don't climb a tree. You need to go to higher ground.
Yeah, everybody was real cash about it. I remember Justin, our line producer, who was amazing and figured out all of these things during the time of COVID, just came over to me and he just kind of leaned in and he's like, just so you know, we're having a little bit of a tsunami warning. Like, I'm on it, talking to some officials, but you know, hopefully we'll get through the day. I'm like, woo, 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 woo. Like, forget the day. Like, do I need to, like, what do I need to do to like not be in a tsunami? Like, that's where I'm focused. And then Melvin was like, just go to higher ground. And I'm just like, I just see these like big trees. I'm like, I can't climb that. I was very, very nervous about it.
Yeah, no.
it is true. They happen often, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me,
but,
one of the go please, Melvin.
No. I was just going to talk about the surfing, but I think you should talk about the surfing.
That's so funny. Episode. We were both going to say the same thing.
Yeah, go do it.
Yes. No, because it was with these two fine folks. It was early on, and we were shooting the first scene of the show, which is Lahela and her dad, and they're surfing, and it's this early morning surf, and it shows their bond. It just sort of sets the scene of Hawaii. And these guys are so fantastic. And we had a wonderful crew that was out in the water, and they're shooting all this stuff. And then they were playing it back. And I remember it was like Peyton and Jason, and we're all sort of, Jake and Mel, and we're all sort of gathered around, and they're playing back the footage. And it was one of my favorite moments. We're watching this. It's like Makaha Beach. It's gorgeous. And Jason points at the screen. He was like, that's Hawaii. Like, it's just like, that's Hawaii. Like, this is what it is. And we've captured it on film. And it was just such a joyous moment. That's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. There's a turtle in it that the turtle showed up. Not an effect. Just was there. It was pretty great. Someone told me it was good luck.
Absolutely is, yes.
There's a story. There's a story that sorry, Peyton. I'm gonna jump.
Go ahead.
It has to do with you, actually. No, because this was before we started filming. It's an interesting story that I like to tell because it was I was fascinated by it. Because here's this young actress who comes in from LA, right? Peyton Elizabeth Lee, and we go out surfing. And I said, have you surfed before? She goes, oh yeah, in California, a little bit. So we're going out, and I've been in the water a lot all my whole life, and I thought it was a pretty big day. This was a big day. And this is not the day where you like go, oh, I'm gonna go try it, thing. Even though, and I hadn't surfed in ages. And here she comes along, and they're like, she's on the board, and they make her take off in this huge wave. She actually gets up, rides it into the coral. She ends up standing like, yes! And it's like, oh my gosh, she's in ankle deep water in Vana, like sea urchins everywhere. And like cheering like she did it. And I'm like, damn, this girl's she's huge. She's got so much courage. I was like, that is crazy. He actually went for it. And I mean, all the waterman guys are like rushing in to save her from this shallow water. And she's like, they says, I told you to go right. You went straight.
Okay. The best part, I mean, it's so funny hearing this story from everyone else's perspective, because from my perspective, I was surfing and I was riding this wave, and all I hear is like yelling, right? And everyone's like waving their arms, and I'm assuming they're like cheering me on, right? And so, but then I paddle back out, and they're like, we were telling you to stop. We were saying, don't go that way.
And that was the end of Peyton's surfing career.
No, it was not.
I know.
Not.
I'm joking.
That was awesome.
It was unbelievable. I do remember that moment. We were all like, "Oh my!" And she's just up and going, and it was unbelievable. Both these guys were so fantastic and so great together. What's interesting too is they're surfing and also acting, because it wasn't just about the surfing. It was about surfing is what this father and daughter do together. And they were able to play that while also surfing. And Peyton, your dad in real life is a big surfer, and you guys, that's something you guys do in your family, right?
Yeah. I mean, I actually remember before one of my first auditions, the two scenes were surfing with my dad and then the driver's test. And I remember I was talking to my dad right before the audition because we had gone surfing that morning together. And I had taken my driver's license test like a few days before. And I was like, do I tell them this? Is it going to seem like I'm lying to try to get a role? Because it just sounds so stupid that like the two scenes were like what just happened in my life. But yeah, it was really fun to sort of use, you know, because the water has always been something that has bonded my family. And so sort of getting to see that brought to life in the show was really special and very personal for me.
And is there anything else you folks want to share about the show or encourage people to check out around it?
I mean, these guys are pretty great together. I think for me, just watching the father-daughter relationship here, like, you know, there's a ton happening in the show, but just watching these two bond as a dad, it really just, it's great. And it's something that I think works on a level that you don't really see in TV that often. Like when you do, it's really special. It's like lightning in the bottle, and having these two play father-daughter is just so great in this. It's like magic.
Well said, Melvin. It really is.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Absolutely. I definitely, it was it's very heartfelt and makes me miss home a lot, and just seeing that connection too. It's very nice to see. I want to give a big mahalo to our cast and crew for joining us today. And thank you all at home for watching as well. Be sure to tune in to the rest of season 1 of Doogie Kamealoha MD on Disney Plus, with new episodes available on Wednesdays. If you enjoyed this conversation and our festival lineup, please consider donating to Visual Communications. Your support will help sustain our year-round operations and programming, and you can go to vcmedia.org for more info. We hope to see you at another conversation. For the most recent updates on the festival, please visit festival.vcmedia.org or follow us on social media accounts at VC Film Festival. Don't forget to tag us with hashtag LAAPFF2021. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. It was so great to talk with you and hear more about the show. I'm so excited for the rest of season 1 and holding out for season 2, man. I'm ready for it.
No, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
guys.
having us. We're very excited to talk to you.
Thank
you. Bye, guys.
You guys.
Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Bye.